Hello everyone and welcome to Season 6, Episode 19 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches of 2021 with match number 32 on our list, which is the Independent Wrestling Championship match between the champion Lee Moriarty and the challenger Wheeler Yuta from the Beyond Wrestling Project Reality event held on May the 6th of 2021. This match, looking back on it 1 year later, both of these guys, are I'll say big stars in AEW. Wheeler Yuta, especially as part of the Blackpool Combat Club with Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. How much more of a push can you get if you're a young man in that promotion? But Lee Moriarty too, he's gotten a lot of high-profile matches on AEWTV as well. But back 1 year ago, these two were kind of sort of, the king of the independents, and Beyond Wrestling really put them at the forefront with this match. So IWTV, they did the Masked Wrestler Tournament of Mystery, which I thought was a really fun concept. I enjoyed Season 1 a lot more than Season 2 from an actual in-ring standpoint, but the show itself is really all about trying to figure out who's under the mask and ultimately getting the big reveals. So it's a really cool concept for a show, boring off of The Masked Singer, and I think there's some other offshoots of that show. I'm not quite sure. I don't watch them. But, a really cool concept. So Lee Moriarty won the Masked Wrestler Tournament. Along the way, he defeated Wheeler Yuta, who would end up being unmasked and jump Lee Moriarty. When he would find out that it was Lee, when Lee revealed himself as the winner of that show, when he cashed in his title shot against Warhorse, ending Warhorse's 500-plus day reign as the IWTV champion. Wheeler Yuta became very outspoken, really bashed the Masked Wrestler show, talked about how he had actually defeated Lee Moriarty in under 10 minutes for a Beyond Wrestling event called 2 Weeks Notice in the summer of 2020. Really, that was kind of when wrestling was starting to come back during COVID, and we would have, all of these outdoor shows and everything like that. But Lee would end up kind of being that breakout independent wrestler throughout COVID, leading him through the Masked Wrestler, leading him to the IWTV title. So, real big chip on Yuta's shoulder for this match. Lots of trash talk on social media. Lee Moriarty actually used Wheeler Yuta's pet hold, the U-Tap, to defeat Starboy Charlie in a defense of the independent wrestling title. So there was a lot of juice coming into this match. It really felt like, a big indie match for the most important title in independent wrestling, we'll say right now. This match is a war of attrition. It is an elongated, one of those matches, and I'll go back, Season 1 of this show, the top 50 matches of 2020, I reviewed a 60-minute Iron Man match between Jeremy Wyatt and Fred Yehi. That was one of the best matches, that there was in 2020. And this match has a lot of parallels to that, where it's, two very smart technical wrestlers that, build to this match, throughout this match tremendously, targeting different limbs throughout it and tying it all together so it becomes a very, worthwhile, rewarding experience. The difference is that Iron Man match was, no crowd, empty arena. This match is in front of a crowd that really stays with this match throughout it all. They give Wheeler Yuta a lot of heat, when the early goings of this match, he's a recent kind of heel, cocky guy after being a babyface for most of his career. But he does have, that small smattering of fans that kind of look at him as like a Beyond Wrestling local guy. He went through the CZW school, but, spent a lot of time in Beyond. He was part of the tag team Hot Wheels with Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, who also, although he was a Chikara guy, really felt like that homegrown Beyond guy too, really wrestling without, the Silver Ant mask, in Beyond Wrestling primarily. So really had that homegrown feel. So, even though Wheeler Yuta's a heel, he's got his fans. Lee, he'd appeared in Beyond Wrestling, but not really a local Beyond guy, kind of just making that appearance as the traveling, independent wrestling champion that he was. So, it led to this, kind of a great atmosphere for this match, where it was a little bit of a mixed bag with, Wheeler getting heat, but still having some of the crowd behind him. This match, it's so smart. They do a really elongated feeling out process here that I really liked because it tied into the story of the masked wrestler where, in that, it's a tournament of mystery. You don't know who you're wrestling. Guys can change it up to try to throw people off. And, Wheeler says that that's what gave Lee the advantage. So he wasn't going to make any mistakes here. He was really going to feel Lee Moriarty out. He obviously had him scouted, and we were in for a long ride with this match. And that's exactly what we would get. Lee Moriarty, squeaky clean, wholesome babyface. So, of course, he breaks clean on all of the opening exchanges. It bites him when he breaks clean a second time, and Yuta slaps him again, playing into that, recent heel turn. Kind of does the old, Shawn Michaels hammock pose up in the corner. So Lee Moriarty escapes a hold, doesn't go for the cheap slap, just pats Yuta on the head, very, patronizing of him, and does the hammock pose himself. They really make it known that Lee Moriarty has the advantage in the early goings of this match. He out-wrestles Yuta at every real turn. They go through all of these great knuckle lock exchanges where Lee keeps, the advantage. Yuta has to go dirty a couple times, with kicks in the corner. So what does Lee do? He doesn't break from that, I said it before, the squeaky clean kind of babyface approach he takes. And he just simply, increases his speed. And that causes, Yuta to get a little bit of frustration. Yuta tries to match the speed and almost gets rolled up for 3 on a crisscross attempt. So he ends up kind of going, outside of that, great just kind of mat wrestling sort of sequence they've been doing. And he nails a big tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, finds his first target of the match, and starts to work over the back of Lee Moriarty. This includes Lee, this makes Lee, start to up his intensity a little bit. With all of his mat work, and he starts to really work the arm of Yuta. He does a great job with the old Nigel McGuinness kind of bend back over the arm spot, and he does a great job, posturing and kind of taunting Yuta while he puts that on. Again, nothing illegal about what he's doing, nothing, really heelish, but kind of just showing I have the advantage over you. I am the better wrestler. He gets a gory special too, which is really great, where he kind of turns Yuta all around the ring to face, all of the different sides of the ring for these fans that are mostly booing him. And it's really good stuff, weaved into the wrestling. Wheeler Yuta does this, sequence where he hits a Manhattan drop and follows it up with an enziguri kick. That would play a pivotal role throughout this match. The first time he goes for it, he actually misses the Manhattan. Lee blasts him with an enziguri kick. Again, just playing into the story that Lee is the better wrestler, that he's scouted Yuta, but then he ends up hitting it and hits his own enziguri kick. This respawn, causes Lee for the first time in the match to really hit a strike, and he hits this big overhand chop that sends Yuta out to the floor, but Yuta kind of holds on and reels himself back into the ring. This time it's Lee that goes for an enziguri, and we get a pivotal moment in this match where Yuta actually catches the enziguri and kicks Lee's leg out from underneath him. And Lee Moriarty actually bails out to the floor, and it shows that this is a target. That kick really injured Lee Moriarty, causing him to leave the ring where, up until this point in the match, he had dominated inside the squared circle, and Yuta knows it. And just like a shark that smells blood in the water, he goes to that leg, works it with a great figure 4, works it with a great bridging Indian deathlock, which is this excellent parallel of Lee with the bridging armbar. Yuta does the same thing, bridging back into the Indian deathlock. Lee tries to, fight out of it. So Yuta, again, using all of these points that he's been able to work over, he decides to go back to the back and hits a great back suplex, which allows him to transition back to the leg work. Lee, he manages to fight out and get these hope spots. He hits a great kiss your ex goodbye, rest in peace Xavier for 2. He gets an octopus hold, and he's so good, just grinding the knuckles into Yuta's side, but Yuta's able to get the ropes. And then at the half-hour mark, things really start to kick up a notch. Yuta gets a flash DDT on the ring apron, just pounds away on Moriarty, stepping on him, really, taking this match down a bit of a dirty turn after being out-wrestled for 30 minutes. And then he proceeds to start going to the neck that he had weakened with that DDT on the apron. He hits a great brain buster. He uses a crossface. They end up on the top rope, and Lee tries to go to the arm with a Kimura, but Wheeler Yuta goes into the hot sauce Tracy Williams playbook. He knows his tag team partner so well, obviously, and he hits the DDT on the top turnbuckle, which is a Tracy Williams staple. And then he grabs an STF, which I love because it ties it all together. The bad leg of Lee, the bad neck of Lee, wrenching back, putting that strain on the back itself. And Lee Moriarty is so great, showing desperation in this hold, and he just has to smash the bad arm of Wheeler Yuta to break it. So they're doing a really great job with the physicality through all of the different targets and limb work that they've used to tie it all together and make it feel fulfilling. This isn't a match that's going long for the sake of going long. It's going long so they can tell the story that they want to tell, and they do a great job with that. Much like how Wheeler Yuta got the flash DDT on the apron, Lee Moriarty gets a big flash move and he hits an exploder, but he sends Yuta over the ropes to the floor, and he proceeds to just pounce, much like Yuta did. He gets a big tope, he gets a suplex on the floor, he gets a tornado DDT on the floor, kicking off the stage. And at this point, it basically resets the match, 30 plus minutes in, back to square one, as they both have to crawl in to barely beat the count. We get the forearm exchange between the two, and it's actually Lee Moriarty uncharacteristically, my apologies, a little tongue-tied, that starts talking trash to Yuta, and that's something we would expect more from Wheeler Yuta and the social media barbs that they trade, going into this match. But it's Lee that's trash talking, saying, you want my title? And eventually it just, divulges into these primal screams while they just, smash each other with these strike exchanges. No more is it, this technical battle of superiority. This has become a fight of two guys that want to win to prove they're better, to defeat their opponent that they really don't like, and to win, the richest prize in independent wrestling, the independent wrestling title. Lee ends up winning out from the strike exchange, again, just showing that he's kind of better at, than Yuta in every way. So what does Yuta do? He goes to Old Trusty. He hits that Manhattan drop and Saguri combo. He hits some rolling German suplexes on the bad back and neck of Lee. Lee's able to roll out of it for two, very similar to how he hit that roll up during the crisscross spot earlier on. So what does Yuta do again? He needs to go back to the dance with what originally got him the advantage in the match. He goes for the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, but this time Lee has it scouted, has an answer to it, and hits a big DDT out of it instead. Again, the parallels in this match are so good. It was earlier Wheeler Yuta catching the leg of Lee on the enziguri attempt and kicking it out. This time, Yuta goes to whip Lee. Lee, puts on the brakes, has that arm exposed, and kicks out the arm of Wheeler Yuta. But this time, it's Wheeler Yuta really having to go into the playbook and really up his game. And after having been outquicked so many times by Lee, it's this time Yuta that starts outquicking Lee Moriarty and hits a missile drop kick at the 45-minute mark into the match. And we're starting to get this shift a little bit here, where, the frustration early on with Wheeler Yuta, kind of being cocky and being arrogant and, roughhousing a little bit, going to the strikes earlier, trash talking, playing to the crowd, all of these things that he was doing that wasn't working for him. Now deep into the match, we're seeing him wrestle more cleanly. We're seeing him go to the speed, and we're seeing Lee kind of shift a little bit with the trash talk and going more toward the strikes and everything that Yuta was doing. And the cracks are starting to form in his foundation with the bad leg, the bad neck, the bad back. Yes, Yuta's got the bad arm, but 3-1, as far as your injured limbs are concerned. And we're starting to get this, change in this match where maybe the crowd is starting to come behind Wheeler Yuta just a little bit more than they were at the start. We get another big strike exchange. Lee wins again, but hurts his bad leg going for a springboard European uppercut. Then he goes to the Bryan Danielson, funny enough, Bryan Danielson, an inspiration of him, they wrestle on AEW television. Bryan Danielson, would try to bring the violence out of Lee. So here, many, many months prior, we get Lee going to the violence with the Bryan Danielson head stomps. Again, showing his frustration that this match has went much deeper than I think he expected it to. but he uses his bad leg and hurts that a little bit more. Yuta at this point is trying roll-ups, whatever he can do. He goes for a sunset flip. Lee smartly turns that into a cross arm breaker, but when he can't get the submission with it, what does he do? He drops a knee on it. Terrible mistake. Yes, it further injures the arm of Yuta, but it puts more damage on that bad leg of Lee Moriarty. At this point, he scrambles, tries to grab a triangle choke, but Yuta's able to powerbomb out of it. We get a big slap exchange. Lee Moriarty, he's only got one thing he can go to. Yuta has all of these targets. Lee only has the arm, so he goes for a Fujiwara armbar. Yuta rolls him up out of it for another great near fall. And at this point, Lee Moriarty, he's a little bit gassed. This match has went deep. He's got a bad leg. He's got a bad neck. He's got a bad back. He's trying to go for the arm. Yuta's kind of hit this second wind and is now outquicking him. So Lee Moriarty goes to a move that had recently brought him success against Starboy Charlie. He goes for the U-tap. You can't put someone's finishing move on themselves. If a move is your finisher, you should know how to avoid it. You should know how to counter it. And that's exactly what happens. He goes for the U-tap. One more time, Wheeler Yuta rolls up out of it, gets a 2, grabs the U-tap himself. Maybe Lee Moriarty didn't think this was an option because of the bad arm. And sure enough, Yuta's not able to hold that move. If you're unfamiliar with that move, it's basically like an inverted Texas cloverleaf, but while holding the guy up in a tombstone position. So you kind of have, the guy, belly to belly, upside down, like you're going to give him a tombstone, but you hook the legs and you wrench forward while kind of keeping the guy, on your legs as you go into a squat position yourself. It's a really cool move, but he can't hold it because of the bad arm. So what does Yuta do? He drops Lee Moriarty right on his head with a tombstone pile driver. Nobody saw it coming, especially Lee. The bad neck couldn't take the shot, and we get the shocking 3 count in 52 minutes to determine a new IWTV champion, Wheeler Yuta. I in no way saw this title change coming. I watched this match spoiler-free when it happened. I was stunned. I thought Lee was going to get a really lengthy title reign, especially coming out of Warhorse's title reign. I didn't think he was going to drop the title in his second defense. I didn't think it was Yuta's time. The way this match was going, I definitely expected a 60-minute draw and maybe a rematch down the road where Yuta would pick up the belt at that point. I was shocked. This is the best pro wrestling. When you think you're going one way, they steer you the other way, and it's not a Vince Russo style swerve just for the sake of a swerve. It is, to throw you off your game, but still give you a result that is really, fulfilling. And that's exactly what happened here. Wheeler Yuta would go on to have a great reign as the IWTV champion before dropping it to Alex Shelley. Both of these guys would go on to AEW success, and this is a really fun match to watch back a year later. It's so good. It's long. It doesn't feel long. The work is great. The finish is great. Everything builds to it expertly. And at this point, in his career, this was by far the best match that I had ever seen Wheeler Yuta in. I've seen Lee in a bunch of excellent matches, and this was up there for him too. A very mature, elongated match by two wrestlers, not super far and deep into their careers. You can watch this one, of course, on IWTV. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.